Budget work session number 4, facilities and transportation. We have a half hour for this before the regular board meeting.
Plenty of time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good? Okay. So just,
Oh, Ms. Boucher, we call the roll, please.
Ms. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Dubois?
Here.
Ms. Hastings?
Here.
Ms. Higgins?
Here.
Ms. Meeker?
Here.
Ms. Minot?
Here.
Ms. Sadowski? Ms.
Here.
Walsh? And I am here.
okay, so this is just an overview of the general fund facilities budget, which is in the board, the budget book that we gave to you. That starts on page 34 and goes to page 36. This is just a summary of that. Some of the increases relate to the professional services for the new HVAC system at the high school, Beaver Meadow, and Broken Ground. So that's why you see that professional service increase for 133.
Why does the new system result in an increase?
It's maintenance. So there's a couple things that we pay for. The IT server room, there's 2 units at 14.8. Then you have this building, has 30 units, which are none here, but on the others, the mini splits, that's 27.8, which we've had. And then you have the high school, Rumlet, Broken Ground, and BMS. That is for the filter service, that's 76,400. Then you have 9 system controllers that control all the buildings. That's 79,242. And then you have the air handlers, module chillers, and system control units. That's for 4 cleanings a year. That's $184,300, and maintenance.
Everything's a subscription.
Everything today.
Were there any offsetting savings? We were spending quite a lot maintaining the high school and Beaver Meadow.
Sure. I would say probably not, because you're going to have increased utilization, as you're seeing with the electric, because the building is more uniform than it was. But the repairs and maintenance is going to be for the contracted service and whatever else may come up. Okay. We highlight on the supplies. I'm sorry, I'll go to purchase services. So of the $116,000 increase, 117 is property and liability insurance. So otherwise, that would be pretty much flat. And then you go to the supplies, up, you see 427,000. So there's a couple things that are in there. The salt for the snow, that's in here at 80,000. Now, granted, that is based off of this year and the increased cost. Do we have another winter as next year? Maybe not. Do we look at lowering that? You have a school building maintenance fund that if we had another one, do you touch upon it? But we also have various maintenance supplies. They're all up. That's an increase of 28,000 over current year. And then you have, that's for the maintenance, the guys that work on the building, drywall, paint, stuff. And then you have custodial supplies, and that's up 24,000 over this year. And then electricity, this is the big one, up 246,500. 7 months, we are at 4.6 million. All of last year, we spent 7 million. So we're projected to be over on those accounts. And the only other thing we have is now the subscription for the floor scrubber, the autonomous floor scrubber at Runlet. That is $6,500 a year. He goes out and he does his thing and comes back. But that's a subscription as well. $6,500 is not too bad. That was an ESSER-funded project for about $60,000, and then we bought a long-term contract that ended, and now you have annual maintenance. So, okay. And then the other two, the dues, fees, and interest, that is mostly interest on, again, when we talked about the bond, the higher end of those scenarios. So this is going to be adjusted to reflect what you voted on, and then ultimately changed again when the bond sale actually happens, which we're hoping to be next week. Okay, so that's what the dues and fees and the principal and transfers are. Other than that, they would be level funded. And then I highlight, kind of, the highlights I went through are listed here. But again, as I said to you, most of the increase on the debt service was going to be offset by money coming from the Facilities and Renovation Trust Fund. But because you're not going to do principal and interest in year one, we're just doing interest, we should be able to absorb all that and not have to touch your trust fund.
What is summer maintenance budget?
So that is 350,000 down from 850. If you remember, that 500 was used to add to do more projects, but that money came out of the school building maintenance fund. So I don't have, we didn't want to tap that again for a recurring maintenance. So on that note, the Honorable Matt Cashman can now talk about his summer project.
I'll be quick, but I'm happy to answer any questions. So when we look at the 350 to break it up over the various schools, broken ground, we want to install water shutoffs. We can't, if we go to replace a faucet, we have to entirely shut the school building water down. So that's been on our list for a while. Electrical upgrade, that would be our final phase, the third grade classroom wing with 8 classrooms. We want to upgrade the electric in there. The student services classroom wall, that's something that the previous principal and our current principal, Rapucci, are looking to do.
Is
I'm
it
gonna
build a wall?
It would build a wall. It would replace a accordion-style wall that's very, they
Not-
want something more
Private?
structured, private. I'm going to also show a couple of pictures, and we'll get to them, but I'll go over this fairly quickly. There's a sidewalk ramp at Beaver Meadow. I took a couple of board members there last week, or week before last, just to show them. They're crumbled, and they need replacing. We, over at Beaver Meadow as well, the exterior painting, it's in desperate need for a new paint job to refresh the outside. The Christa McAuliffe, we want to widen the sidewalk, and there's some drainage. It's the sidewalk between Rumford Street coming down to the main entrance where parents. It has over time, it's a little bit of erosion. The drainage is tough over there, so if we expand it and put some drainage in there, that's the intent. Runlet Middle School, again, I'm going to show you an overview, color version. Both the bus and car lane, if you drive up there and you're familiar, it's very potholes, riddled with, and we've got to do something for the remainder of years that we've got people in there. CRTC welding, we heard Ann Fowler talk about 12 new stations starting next year. We have monies in there for that, for electric and air handling to add those new stations. And then parking lot striping and district-wide painting. Those, go ahead.
Is the welding, is it coming out of the general budget or from CRTC funds?
The building part of it comes out of the general,
Okay.
but the welders themselves and a lot of it's being donated. Even the design of it has been donated, so it fits right into. There were 2 big automotive classrooms up at the high school. We kind of consolidated into one and moved one of the lifts over into the bigger of the 2, and so that existing previous auto is going to be the 12 welding stations.
So Perkins funds can't be used for the building work, or is that
Not
allowed?
for the actual construction of the, like adding the electric and adding the HVAC. The other stuff it
Ms.
can.
Meeker?
Is that, I know that you do summer painting on a cycle. Is that the same amount that you allot usually?
We, in previous years, we've paid a little bit more. But again, to try to make the 350 work for all the schools, that was something that I think we can get a good amount of interior painting done at all of the schools
Thank
for
you.
that. I'll go to the next. This is Beaver Meadows, so the green highlighted, that's That upper area is all concrete, so it's chipped up and it's showing its age. It's tough to get across. And then as it leads to that path from the upper lot down into the lower part of the site and eventually to the playground, it's in pretty rough shape. So I have the numbers in there to replace that. This is Krista McAuliffe. So you can see where I've highlighted expanding that path to make it a little bit more user-friendly. And also you can see where I've drawn in some drainage to carry water from the inner side of that ramp to the out and tie it into storm drainage.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Mr. Cashman, both of those paving projects of those paths, that also helps to maintain ADA compliance?
Yes, it does, 100%.
Did we-
And so
yeah,
does.
Sorry, can we go back? Isn't that the spot that we handled, like, we did a project to handle drainage just a couple of years ago?
We did. We've installed additional drainage further down that path near the plaza as you enter. It's a
Something like
really
closer to the
wet
building
site.
side.
So, yep,
So would you say that the work that was done previously was a phased project and this is in the next thing in the phase, or what we did before didn't work well?
no, I think the first phase worked well. Wasn't originally intending to do this additional phase, but that area is very saturated and wet. It's heavy clay-like blue glacial till is what they call it. So it just holds the water, and I think just the erosion and the kids and people walking on the sides, it's caused ruts on both sides where I'd like to try to widen it and fix it.
Ms. Walsh?
Yep.
I just also want to comment on this site in particular. It's a lot of traffic, and kids don't like to use the path. They like to come down here over, so it's just really hard packed. If there was better soil
Like if it was
management.
terraced maybe or something, yeah.
Do you want to go to the next page?
So are we sure that this will fix the problem?
Right, I think that's what I'm possibly.
We've installed drainage everywhere else. I think that, again, the traffic pattern, so many people using it, so if we can expand it, you can see where the rutted out pieces, that's where people
Yeah.
are walking, and we want to put them on safe grounding, so. I probably could have made that all green right there, but it's showing some highlighted tough areas. One in particular, down by the gym, if you're familiar, it's on the far left of the photo. That encompasses a entry ramp and a walkway out to that parking lot down below. So I want to fix that, but also take care of a lot of the potholes and ruts that you see on both sides of the bus and car pickup.
And again, to maintain ADA compliance.
Can't see this too well, but this is an overview of the welding classroom. And if you look closely, you can see the 12 welding booths that are stations that are installed in there. So we have to add some electricity to each one of those and then add the ventilation hoods that go right up to where the welding takes place, and it evacuates it outside of the building safely. So it doesn't mix with any other air in the school. So we were thinking of ways, and we looked at some ideas of how can we, in a tough budget cycle, how can we save some money. So we, Superintendent Herbert and Bridget and a couple of us, we walked and looked at the high school. There is definitely some room up there within the commons areas where we used to have lockers, and we had cleared out where we could install the existing cubbies that we had purchased several years ago over the years, and when we moved in here, and be able to reuse them up there. So space-wise, it looks like we could.
So just because we discussed this at our retreat, but Ms. McLaughlin wasn't with us then. What we're discussing is relocating central office into the high school and eventually potentially selling or renting this building. Go on, Mr. Cashman.
Okay. So I just wanted to kind of list out, these are estimates. If this is something that you would like us to move forward with, then I would go out for RFP, get formal quotes. But I did get estimates for all of it, so just listing out some of the things that we'd have to do. If you remember, we bought that house across the street from the high school. We have a picture of it here at 127 Warren Street. It actually abuts a property where we used to have the childcare facility.
Yep.
So just talked briefly to our engineers and just asked them how many, if we were to do, demo that house, how many parking spaces could we get? Because parking would be
Yeah,
something
that
that
was gonna
we.
be my question.
That is a big question. So there's a couple of ideas around that. Jack, I don't know if you want to go back to the previous slide. There's some costs involved in that. If we raise that house, get civil engineering design, drainage in, we would, would have to go through that phase to do it properly, obviously. But there's another option we can also look at, the stable parking lot. If you're familiar with it, there's islands out scattered throughout the parking lot, and removal of those islands could add maybe 12 or so spaces, which would be a nice offset as well.
Can I ask a quick question? There was concern around the site of the house with things in the ground. Is tearing down the house, do we have to do anything?
We would have to do, we'd have to cut and cap all utilities.
Okay.
That's for a start. But it was built in 1955, so we don't know of any suspect hazardous materials,
I
but
thought
we'd
there
have
was
to go
something
through.
connected. Am I remembering wrong?
That might have been the gas station.
No, it was down there, because it was tied to the reason we had to tear down the childcare. I guess.
The childcare had a foundation issue
And
with,
termites
it
and
was
such,
built,
yeah.
it was built right
All right.
flush with the ground
So there's no
instead of.
bad things underground, under that house?
Not that we're aware of, but that's part of the engineering part that we
Okay.
would investigate just to make sure.
We'll have to look
Uh,
back, see what I'm remembering.
So it was something we wanted to bring forward to you as a suggestion in the effort to overall look to save money. But there's more exploration that would be needed, and we're happy to do that if that's.
And these are obviously one-time costs, so I know Mr. Dunn was working on sort of what an estimate and operational savings would be as well.
With the help of Danielle Sutton, we do. We looked at what the operational cost for this building over the last couple of years is $154,000 and $156. So I think safe bet would be about $150, and that's utilities, that's maintenance of the outside, maintenance of the inside. I think Jack alluded to the HVAC maintenance plans that we have in here, the work we do yearly on the boiler.
And the fact that many employees and students cannot access most of this building.
Correct.
Yeah, this is the one accessible spot in the entire building. Okay, well, that's helpful.
I'll move to transportation. Does that work?
Yep.
We'll move on to, okay. Just a high level. Rebecca, I'll have you come up if that's all right. Have a seat there. Rebecca's the new director of transportation. So just to highlight, this budget's looking at a 6.26% increase. Where those increases are is obviously salary and benefits. We'll do a summary of what is budgeted as far as staffing. The professional service, you see the significant decrease. That was because that's where we budgeted the electric buses to put there. And then for the purchased property, that's the increase in the auto insurance. And then for the $5,000 purchase services, that's the increase for the special ed transportation, athletic charter, all encompassing of it, I'm sorry. A McKinney-Vento homeless, and that's it. So we budget for special ed transportation. This is out of district public transportation, using a third-party vendor or reimbursing parents from McKinney-Vento or a third-party vendor. So we budget $2 million for the special ed transport. For the athletic charter, we budgeted $15,000. That's up $3,500. And then for McKinney-Vento, $259,000. That's up from $250,000.
259,000, you said?
Yep. So 9,000 higher, 11,500 higher, and 500,000 higher. And then on the supply side, you'll see a decrease in gasoline of 10,000, but an increase of 20 for electricity for our electric buses. So we don't pay for electricity up there, but we are paying for the electric buses. Not sure whether that's going to be enough. I will tell you this, since the buses are on the road, we have already spent almost 4,000 in electric, and they've only been on the road 2 months. So we'll have to see where they tie out to be. But what we did is, even though we lowered the gasoline a little bit, that's where we'll move money if, in fact, there isn't enough electricity. So we're going to try at 20 and see where things stand. I am also in the process of bidding out the supply for that, so that could change things a little bit too. Trying to see if I can get it added on to our existing contract at 9.3 cents per kilowatt instead of the
Question
Yeah.
about electric
13.
buses.
Yeah.
How much is that is factored into we receive them in the winter time and the charging of them in the winter? Is that
Well,
what you mean too?
Yeah, because you consume them more. So we've used them, January, February now, and yeah,
Which we
they're
may
our
see
highest months. So that's why.
differently
Exactly.
than
Yeah, because they're talking probably 70, 80 miles out of a tank versus 110 to 120 in the summer.
Right.
So, but they are out floating around. And then for the supplies, nope, I hit you with that one. For the equipment, that is where vehicles sit. So if you remember, we took some money out of the Special Education Trust Fund to try to mitigate the significant impact of the third-party transport. So we leased two buses. We leased three. We gave one back because we realized we weren't going to need that. And we only did it for 1 year for cash flow purposes. And then now we have to either lease them again or pay them off. So there's $120,000 for new vehicles. We had $10,000. We usually budget for a replacement van. We eliminated that, so that's zero. The bus chargers were also in that equipment line for $60,000. If you remember, that money came from an insurance from a bus that was just in an accident. So that was an in and out. That was a wash, but we reduced that. And then we have also in the equipment $12,000 for cameras. You may remember in the superintendent's letter there are two buses that were likely going to need to be replaced. One is the one that caught fire, and the other is one that was totaled a couple weeks ago. It was a 2014. Even though that bus, we got $16,000 from the insurance company, it's probably going to be about $95,000 to replace it, and then you got to add cameras. So that's why we budgeted the $12,000 for two sets of cameras, and that's it for the equipment side. And then dues, fees, and interest. Dues and fees. There's no interest there. It's just training, registration reimbursements, the director's enrollment in NHSTA, the background checks, and driver's license renewals, which we reimburse as part of collective bargaining agreement. And then we're required to do background checks as part of the RSA. So that's what makes up the 17,652. Here
How many
is.
kids do we have riding the bus? Is that what's coming up? No?
I'll let you grab the mic. Okay. Oh, while she's looking that up, I'll just highlight a couple things. I have a thing to late. So we have 23 large buses. Notice I don't have the 3 electric buses on there because it would have looked like the large bus. 8 CDL special buses and 7 non-CDL special needs buses. And then in addition, we have 2 plow trucks, 1 mechanic, what they call the chase truck that also plows transportation up there. We have the courier van, and then 3 minivans and 2 10-passenger vans. So everything I was mentioning is also here on the slide. So while she's looking that up, I'll move to the last slide I have. Yep. So we were talking at the building committee about budgeting because of the amount of transportation that may be needed to move students around with Runlet and Concord High. So we have budgeted a value of $60,000 in mileage. So the way we track mileage in the district is we put a value and then we put a negative number. So people can look at their account and know how many miles they have to use for field trips or various things. So that's what we budgeted. Whatever we don't use, obviously that is not an expense incurred. So we did 2,900 split with Runlet PE. I called it PE and athletic. In Concord High, I just did athletics because I don't know. I don't think they go down there for PE.
To Memorial Field?
To Runlet.
No.
I think it's just the after-school athletics, like football. So that's what we did. It all, again, nets out to zero. It doesn't come a true expense until we journalize it and say, now it's an expense. So the total amount of miles is about $413,000 in value. Okay.
I have 1692 registered for bus. That doesn't necessarily mean they all ride, but that's what we have registered for big buses.
Transportation questions? Okay. On Wednesday, Mr. Dunn,
Yep.
Superintendent, we need to post the budget. At that point, you're gonna bring us some options for the reductions that we asked for. So that will be our focus on Wednesday. I know we have instructional, but
Our goal is to upload that into the Teams file tomorrow, so you have 24 hours to look at it.
thank you. But I think we might start with that,
Yep.
because I think that is probably gonna be the focus of our budget meeting on Wednesday. Anything else?
For, you know, the contracted services are just huge and just keep going up exponentially. Have we looked at any possible efficiencies, like negotiating rates, getting a preferred vendor, figuring out alternatives, putting multiple students on a route, or like, you know, $2.3 million between special education and McKinney-Vento. In some cases, we're spending more transporting students than it would cost to house them, which feels absurd, right? You could pay rent for a year for less than it costs to drive them.
So we are asking multiple vendors if they can get us the better rates, things like that. We are getting the best rates that we currently can. As we hire in, we can look at things again from an internal standpoint. But until we get those numbers, it's gonna be outsourced for a lot of the further away things. And it's, for some of it, the out of district, that's more stable, so we know generally going into it what we're getting. The McKinney-Vento is a moving target, so it's really hard for that one.
Yeah, oh, I understand that one.
So.
For out-of-district placements, you know, I haven't had a chance to look at what Jenny just emailed us in detail, but if we have 2 or 3 students at one school, are they getting picked up in Concord and then driven to that school together, or are they each have their
Generally,
own
they are
transportation?
together.
Okay.
I think there's one school I know of that has more than one vehicle going, 2 schools, and that is for the student needs.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll have more detail on that on Wednesday and when we have time. We did bring some things, but non-public would be more appropriate for that. Okay. So that's it.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to adjourn our budget work session and call the monthly meeting of the board to order. Ms. Boucher, will you call the roll?
Ms. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Dubois?
Here.
Ms. Hastings?
Here.
Ms. Higgins?
Here.
Ms. Meeker?
Here.
Ms. Minot?
Here.
Ms. Sadowski?
Here.
Ms. Walsh? And I
Here.
am here.
first item is approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hastings, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Meeker. Any discussion, changes, amendments?
Yes, I do.
What?
On page 12.
Is that a minute?
Oh, agenda, no, I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, you made me rush too much.
All right,
Could I just,
made you rush.
seeing none,
for your agenda, could I just ask this? You had asked for that bond meeting from the 19th, that if the rate was above a 375, you wanted to call that out for a discussion?
yeah.
So do you, I don't know where you want to do that. You want to wait till the finance part for me to address it? Or,
I know that you need to leave early this evening, Mr. Dunn, so why don't we do that right after the consent agenda?
Sure.
Finance?
Yeah, we'll do the bonds right after
Separate?
consent.
How soon does it need to leave from new school celebrations first?
Yep, no, I'm sorry. So, great, we'll add that. All in favor of the agenda as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Minutes from the monthly meeting of February 2nd, the building committee of February 5th, the communication and policy meeting of February 9th, the budget work session of February 11th, the executive committee of February 16th, the budget work session of February 16th, the budget work session of February 18th, and the bond hearing of February 19th. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Boucher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Higgins. Discussion. Amendments.
I have two amendments. On page 12,
Yeah?
Alex Dubois was here, which it later says, as you move down, that he did arrive at 6:03. However, it wants to be done, it's just not consistent with previous
Okay, so
delays. And
amend the minutes to reflect the fact that Mr. Du Bois was not absent. He arrived at 6:03 PM.
yeah, which is further down,
Okay.
but not consistent with the way it's written in other minutes.
So, is there a second to Ms. Boucher's motion?
Seconded.
Second by Ms. Sadowski. Any discussion on this amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other further
One more.
amendments?
One
Yes.
more on page 17.
Yep.
I'm listed as the chair of the building committee, but I want to be clear that that is
Oh,
Ms. Walsh.
I'm the chair of the building committee, yes, so. Move to, is there a second to, I'll second Ms. Boucher's amendment. Easier. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any further amendments to the minutes? Hearing, seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Dunn?
Yep, so I sent out an email a little bit before this meeting, just letting you know that the financial advisors are obviously checking the market daily, and things are adjusting. So I did hand out a packet for you of what they had prepared for the 25-year structure. Everything meets your criteria. The one item you mentioned, you didn't put in your motion, but you had said if it went above a TIC, a true interest cost of 3.75, or potentially above that, to let you know. So that's why I'm coming back to you, because I need to tell them whether they need to go forward or we're going to do something different, because they're scheduled to start advertising for the bond. We have to finish satisfying legal requirements. I have the treasurer coming in tomorrow to sign some documents, and hopefully the clerk tomorrow. But they wanted to give a range in this of a 3.81 all the way to 4.25. I think they're being extremely cautious, but I just need to know that it's okay to continue moving forward.
So the motion, I believe, was to notify us. Anyone can make a motion if they would like to change the authorization, or it continues as it is. We will know the actual results next week.
If we go to the market next week, we will know that day. We will know the bond premium, because as you'll see in here, they mentioned this does not include the bond premium, but it's a wide range. I've been conservatively putting about 1.5%, which is about $2 million. You're up as high as 5.7 in one of these projections. So, tried to play it as conservative as I can. Hopefully, a lot of people want to buy school debt.
And the board will have an opportunity to vote on the final.
Yeah, you'll have to vote to accept it. But once it goes, that's going to be it. No, they'll have their recommendation, but it's pretty much, that's what it is.
Questions?
But as you mentioned, if we decided to say no at that point, we're on the hook for costs.
We are on the hook for
So
costs.
it's not like, we could say no, but there's a cost to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ms. Hastings?
Is this indicating that 3.75 is no longer even available, or is this saying this is their best guess?
Right now, based on market rates, that's what they're putting for a potential range of interest rates. Yep. They went to their desk, and that's what they came back with. But until we see who bids on it, we don't know. Could be below.
I mean, this is an exercise in absurdity, right?
It's-
Like,
that's-
you're saying
it's-
it could be, but it
Yep.
might not be, but it probably will be. We're super conservative, and they're gonna do the best they can. So there's not really any particular motion that we can make at this point.
We
Right.
could move to maybe.
Well,
think about it.
I mean, then most from people, we don't go to market.
Not go to
Right,
market at
yeah.
this time.
And say,
And
just
hold.
wait and
Yeah.
put the project on hold.
Probably isn't gonna make.
Yeah.
Right, so if that is a recommendation is coming from the district, I'd like to know if that's a point of discussion that the board needs to engage in. I'd like to know.
No, I think you want to capitalize on what's going on and lock in and get the, yeah, no, it's not going to get any better. And they say that in here. We see the long term, they've already pushed out potential lowering of the Fed meeting and lowering rates. They don't think that's going to happen. They think that's been pushed out. So we may be in the best place we can be at the moment. I say we lock in and see, hopefully things around the world settle down a little bit by the time the next bond comes.
Yeah.
And they
But
might, but maybe not.
At least we can get started. And hopefully all that comes in and all this is for nothing. That's my hope. So,
I mean, I would just say, I appreciate and trust that you have put us in the best position we can be to move forward with what is, what these results are gonna be,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, I think that's where we're at.
Now, we had to call with S&P today, the long-term outlook. It sounds as if we're going to keep the AA- rating, which is a good thing. They are going to stress that those trust funds you have is significantly contributing to that positive AA- rating. And we talked a lot about state revenues, and I've asked them to note that in there, that is a concern that they have coming and looking at the school district, because it's impacting you now. So that's it. But I think the years of the work the board has done has led you to where you are right now.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dunn.
Okay? If you're good, I will move forward and for the best.
Principal Fowler and CRTC students?
Do they have enough mic?
Hello. You guys, oh, you're gonna,
Ms. Guerin or Mr. Dunn?
All right.
Can you pass your microphone if you go to them?
I'm gonna hand this to Jen.
Take it on the case, too.
So I want to introduce you to Jen Strong Rain.
Hi, everyone.
Jen is a long-term employee at CRTC. She was an educator for about 13 years before we brought her into our office. Had other things in mind. And a few years ago, I asked her to look at our ambassador program and to kind of reinvent it. We just had kids volunteering. As you know, CRTC entertains a lot. So we had a lot of tours, we had a lot of activities, and it was just, it was falling flat. It didn't have a lot of spark behind it. So I asked Jen if she could look at our ambassador program and redesign and put some meaning behind it. And she spent a lot of time revamping the program, putting some meaning, and she brought in 4 students today, and we wanted to make it look, we wanted students from other schools, and we wanted to really have some training behind it and some ceremony behind it. So when they complete the ambassador training program, they get something in the end. So I'm going to let Jen explain the program, and I'm going to step aside.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to talk about our ambassador program. Overseeing the program is truly one of the highlights of my job, and I'm thrilled to be here today. When I left the classroom, my biggest fear was I wouldn't be able to be with students. So this allows me that opportunity. So I really appreciate that. And just a little back history, like what Anne was kind of mentioning, when I first inherited the program about 5 years ago, there was over 145 student ambassadors, which was great that we had all these students that wanted to represent us, but it was pretty clear that we didn't have any clear vision or common experiences. So we needed to revamp the program, and I didn't know really where to start. But Anne kind of set me in the direction of visiting other CTE centers, which really helped because it gave me some framework. They shared their information with me, and I was able to make some tweaks into the program and turn it into what it is today. Today, I'm proud to say it's more of an elite student leadership program where the teachers now have to nominate just 1 student per block. And just to give you a reference point, the teachers have anywhere from 18 to 20 students per block. So they have about 60 students that they can only nominate 3 to be an ambassador for. So the students that stand before you right now are really some of our high flyers. So I'm super proud to have them here. And when nominating the students, the teachers have a clear criteria that they look at, which includes the passion and drive the students have for both CRTC as a whole and their specific programs, their communication and leadership skills, their grades, and their ability to engage with all different stakeholders. The process starts in like November, where the teachers start nominating the students. Once the nomination process goes through, then we start our training process, and that's about December through January. We have about 6 meetings. They're pretty intensive because we have to train them not just on their programs, but on CRTC as a whole. So they need to know how many students do we have, what sending schools come to us, what programs do we offer. So we go through that. You get like a 15-page document that I expect them to kind of memorize. So they have a little homework that they have to have with me. And that's kind of like the program-specific information, such as number of college credits, industry-recognized credentials that our programs offer, and work-based learning opportunities. So they have to speak about that for their programs, but also know about that across all of our 12 programs. They attend many school events after hours too, like our fall open house, our prospective student night, new student orientation. Additionally, they assist with the program preview days, which is huge, so thank you. They go to 8th grade tours, sending school road shows, as well as giving tours to different business and industry partners. They're called upon to assist at our advisory board meetings and are frequently asked questions that help guide CRTC in our future planning. They truly are the student face and voice of CRTC. And that's not only just within Concord High, but we expect them to go back to their sending schools and still be our voice, because we can't be at all of our sending schools. So they're really good about also representing us during their time at their sending schools. Now, as my nerves are really hitting me, I'm going to pass it over to these guys, because that's truly who you guys want to hear from. So if you guys can start by saying your name, your sending school, your program, and how many years you've been an ambassador, and kind of talk about what being an ambassador has meant to you.
How's it going, y'all? My name is Brandon Lurvey. I'm a 12th grader, and I'm from Pembroke Academy. I've been in CRTC for 2 years. I am a second-year student in the Emergency Services Program, as well as a teaching assistant. And I've been an ambassador for 2 years. Being an ambassador has been a very great achievement of mine in high school, definitely up there for one of the top ones that I've had. Because it's teaching me a lot about leadership skills and public speaking in general, like right now. I was lucky enough to be able to speak with all the other sending schools when they came to CRTC, the superintendents and school board members and all those other people as well. And it's been a great experience for me to give me a learning opportunity for future endeavors, because I want to become a fire lieutenant, so being able to do this is a very big thing for me. getting these skills early on in high school has been a great achievement of mine, and helping out all the other students learn about CRTC and give them a good experience in CRTC through preview days and open houses, like they did for me when I first came there, is a very big thing for me, because CRTC has been my favorite class by far, and it has set me up for my future very, very well, and given me a plan for when I get out of high school.
Hard to top that one. So I'm Logan. I'm a senior here at Concord High School, and I'm in the Education and Behavioral Science program. And being an ambassador really means for me is just to be able to represent the program that has done so well, been so beneficial to me. I came into Concord, I was from Deerfield, so I felt lost, didn't really have a drive, and was struggling. Joined the program after my counselor told me to, and really found my spark. I started learning about the brain, loved it, became a student rep, and loved being able to represent the Education and Behavioral Science program. My teacher recommended me the Ambassador program, and I love to get to talk to new students who are excited about the program, get to tell them why they should do it and all the benefits that come with it. And it's just a great program, and it's a great position to be where I can represent a program that I love so dearly.
My name's Mahaley Burdett. I'm a junior at Concord High School. I'm in the health science program, and this is my first year as an ambassador. For me, being an ambassador is really about sharing what I love about CRTC with other people and students that are looking to do it. It's my favorite class of the day, and I'm so lucky to be in it and be able to share my experience with others. I also love that I get to have opportunities like this, because this would never be something that I would have done before this. I've never been good about speaking up, but through the ambassador program, I've had so many opportunities to be in a leadership position and have so many places where I can speak in front of my peers and share my experience.
I'm Avery Snary. I'm a junior at Merrimack Valley, and I'm in the criminal justice program. It's my first year as an ambassador. I think my favorite thing about the ambassador program specifically is just seeing the student interest and being able to help push students to join the programs. It's really rewarding, honestly, when students from my school especially come to the road shows where we talk about them, and then I see them at the open houses and the preview days. Because it's neat to be able to help inspire them. It's also very helpful for my career. I want to go into law, so doing events like these, public speaking, working on that, it's very helpful to get that experience before I go into my career. And I love all the events. Preview days are so much fun, and just getting to share all the great things about CRTC and about my program specifically, being able to share that with other students and then hopefully inspiring them to apply. It's really great, and I love it a lot.
So what's your elevator pitch when a student asks you, why should I go to CRTC?
You meet a lot of new people. There's a ton of different schools. There's 6 different schools that feed into my class. And it's just neat to get to learn about other people. You learn about so many things too that you just can't learn about anywhere else, which is really great. You get a lot of new experiences. With my program too, we have guest speakers. So every Friday we have professionals from different criminal justice fields come in. So you get to talk firsthand with professionals. You get to do a lot of hands-on work, and it's just a lot of great experiences that you wouldn't normally get at your sending school or at Concord or in any other class. And you meet a lot of great people. So that would be the main thing I would tell people interested. Mm-hmm.
Questions?
I'll go. I'd say my big thing about CRTC and what I tell all the upcoming students is just the opportunities it holds. Obviously, we get the opportunity to speak in front of you on a lovely Monday night, but also some other opportunities I got was I was able to create a children's book and be able to present it, and worked all my way up to going to Florida and presenting it in front of a bunch of future and current teachers all around the world, met people from Alaska. It was a wonderful experience. And also through my program, I get to do field work. and every Tuesday and Friday I'm at the New Hampshire hospital getting a real life sense of kind of the career path I want to go into. And this is before I'm spending thousands of money in college on my college courses. So that's usually what I tell them, the immense opportunities this program holds.
Well said.
Well said. Very good.
This is why I don't want to do it. They speak to it so well.
Anyone else want to go or have questions? Any board members?
Just awesome job,
Yeah.
all of
Great
you.
job.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. And thank you for helping spread the word about CRTC.
Yes.
Thank you guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite up our friends from CMS Cares. Literally my friends. I remember the Zoom call. It was where it started.
Do you need more microphones? Yep.
Liz, one of our board members has switched outfits. And, oh, here.
We have a lovely presentation.
Yes.
That we're going
We have the.
Oh, you have the.
We have.
Well, while you're waiting for the presentation to go up, why don't you introduce yourselves for the record?
Hi, I'm Reagan Bissonette. I am a parent of a fourth grader at Krista McAuliffe School and also the CMS Cares Coordinator for the PTO.
I'm Lindsay Nye. I'm the interim principal at Krista McAuliffe.
I'm Stacy Lazar. I'm the home to school liaison at Krista McAuliffe School.
I'm Jennifer Thompson. I am the president of the CMS PTO and a parent of a fourth grader.
I'm Liz Boucher. I'm a board member. I'm also a parent of a second and fifth grader at CMS, but I'm sitting up here too as the coordinator for the Family Center Market.
I think we can start if that works for everyone. Sorry. So I'll kick it off this. So I'll kick it off this evening, and on behalf of my co-presenters, we would like to first thank the board and the administration for welcoming us tonight and for allowing us to share the amazing and impactful work that our CMS Cares Committee has been able to do in the last almost 5 years. We were created, the CMS Cares Committee was created in 2021 as a subcommittee of the PTO. And as many of you are aware, the primary focus of the PTO is to make sure all students get access to field trips, staff get access to supplies that are not necessarily covered by the budget, whereas our CMS Cares Committee was created to help promote equity within the school community. We realize at Krista McAuliffe that we have a very wide range of socioeconomic status, and the committee is here to provide confidential resources to our students and families that need it. And as you'll hear in this presentation, this work could not be done without the collaboration that we have with a partnership with our school administration, our home to school liaison, and other community members and partners. We highlight a lot of the external partners on the first page: Concord Housing Authority, the Friendly Kitchen, Capital Area Food Access Coalition, New Hampshire Food Bank, New Hampshire Hunger Solutions, Hannaford, the Boys and Girls Club of Boys and Girls Club of Central New Hampshire, Zonta, UNH Extension, Constantly Pizza, and other community members. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay Nye to see if she has anything additional to add, and then Stacy and Reagan and Liz will continue.
I think it's really important to note that CMS Cares is extremely impactful in that it is immediate. And for some of our families, that is so important because there might be a crisis that they are trying to manage while keeping their children in school, which is where we want them to be. So that collaboration that Jen talked about is really key, and that confidentiality is also important so that families do reach out when they need support.
So to give you a sense of the types of support that we provide for students and their families at CMS, we have over the years put together a guidance document that informs what types of expenses will be approved, what things might need to go to the full PTO board for discussion, but as was mentioned, often these are needs that are pretty time sensitive, and so we've worked out a process so that we can make it easy for Stacy to work closely with the families to get them support in a timely manner. So some of the things that we routinely fund are clothing, shoes, glasses or other accessibility devices that students may need to support their learning. In addition, food or grocery gift cards. Transportation is also a big one. So, for example, if a family needs gas cards or a taxi ride, like if a student is sick and they typically take the bus and their parent doesn't have transportation to come and get them from the school and take them to the doctor, that is something that we would provide support for. Also phone cards so the school can communicate with families. In addition to certain types of school supplies, we provide quite a bit of support for the Family Center Market, which you'll hear more about. And then just in general, more sort of family engagement and programs. And one thing that I think is really important to stress is that all of this is done confidentially. So no one on the PTO knows the identity of those students or the families being supported. That's something that really, Stacy takes the lead on and has that information. And then shares with us, obviously, sort of details about the request, but everything is kept confidential.
So there is a parent quote. I'm not going to read it because you have it in front of you, but what I think that this quote really highlights is that the CMS Cares is really serving a complementary role in supporting our families. So there may be some district resources that we can provide families, but then there's some maybe some loopholes or things that they might not be able to access quickly, like accessing food and clothing and gas cards, right? But we can make sure that the student has transportation to school and that they're coming to school and that they're safe and happy at school. Those are things that we can definitely control as a district, but things like food, that's not something that we're able to offer necessarily beyond the breakfast and lunch program. And so, as Reagan pointed out, this is something that can literally happen within hours if I get a request. I don't have to wait. I don't have to go through, 3 or 4 community organizations and wait to hear back. It is literally within an hour. I can make that decision. They've allowed me the ability to do certain purchases without approval, such as taxi rides, things that are under a certain amount of money. I'm able to make that determination and then just make sure that they have the information after, because we don't want to delay ensuring that the family can get to where they need to go or have what they need in order to provide safe, stable supports to their children. And this another part of this is that there's a lack of judgment coming from us. We ensure that there's no shame and there's no stigma in asking for help, and I think that we're really good about doing that at Christa McAuliffe. And having this as a complementary support, I think, has been critical, really in serving. You'll see the numbers on the next page. While we haven't served an extraordinary amount of families, what we've done for those families has been super impactful in terms of ensuring that, as Reagan said, they can get to medical appointments. That has been something that we have struggled with. I'm not sure if other folks in the district are struggling with that, but many of our families who have Medicaid, even though Medicaid has a transportation service, it is not always reliable, and we've had families lose out on dental, especially if they miss an appointment or if they're late. And so we've been able to ensure that families get to where they need to go when they need to get there, so that they're not losing out on a critical medical support. So we have provided 5 families with approximately $1,000 in direct support, and that is 6 adults, 9 CMS students, and 3 CSD students. We partnered with the Friendly Kitchen and CMS Cares. We provided 20 meal boxes prepared for families during that 2-week vacation break. We understood that there were many kids who were not going to have breakfast and lunch. And so we ensured that they had what they needed. We also included things like some family activities like gingerbread houses and things like that to really promote that family engagement. And really the goal of CMS Cares in my mind, there is a quote that I had provided to CMS Cares, but it's really, we want to ensure that students can remain safe, supported, and ready to learn at CMS. And that's really the bottom line of why we're doing all of this.
So I'm just gonna, one of the things that's not on those lists that I think is so important is that making sure all students can feel included in the school community. So movie night or the dance, they can get pizza and water just like everybody else, and they can come just like everybody else. I think that's really important.
Yep, and we do not charge admission at
Yeah.
any of our PTO events. It's very important as a mission of our PTO is that every student can come.
And we can also provide transportation through CMS Cares for those families to be able to access those events, because some of our families, even though they are attending CMS, may not live in our catchment area due to housing instability, and so that can provide a lot of barriers for families, and so we want to ensure that they're able to access, and that does help for sure.
During the kind of coming out of the pandemic when CMS Cares was established, we also were looking at how do we help to supply food for students during breaks. That small goal morphed into a food pantry, which we call the Family Center Market over at Jennings Drive. So Chris McAuliffe does not have the space for an in-school food pantry much like Broken Ground does. We have an off-site location, which is still in the CMS catchment area. That was established through the help of the Friendly Kitchen and some other contacts, where it was literally just a closet of food pretty much with donations. We had to close because we weren't able to source as much food as was needed. And when we reopened, that we now are a member of the New Hampshire Food Bank. We receive USDA commodity foods once a month. We have the Boys and Girls Club, which has done fantastic work and support in helping to pick up our deliveries on Thursdays and deliver them to the market, where myself or someone else unloads that on Thursday midday. We are now open every Saturday from 11 to 12 p.m. Anyone can shop. It's not just for CMS families. You could shop, I could shop, anyone can bring friends. And we are now open on Thursday evening, second and third Thursday evening, 4:30 to 5:30, first and third Thursdays from 4:30 to 5:30. We have about 15 volunteers who are registered to volunteer. That includes having to take a small food service online program in order to be there to allow people to shop. Many of those are CMS related in some way, but there are other volunteers that are not members of Concord Housing Authority, which I cannot say enough for how wonderful it is to have them offer us that space that we do share now. And part of the name of the family, how it became the Family Center Market, is that because Concord Family Center, one of the district's family centers, also shares that space. So they're able to shop after they attend their Monday Family Center. That has brought more families to that family center, which is important to note. CMS Cares and the CMS PTO is the fiscal agent of this pantry. That's how it runs. I think this is important too, to note that this is a wonderful example of family and community engagement with a school. There's so much people can offer and be brought into what we're doing as a school district and learn more. We're able to provide resources. We have 211 information there. We have Concord resources available. We have health information available, SNAP benefits, WIC information that's also available. I don't know, New Hampshire Commodity Supplemental Foods Program. I mean, so many things because of all the people. We've gotten a $2,000 grant from the food bank to promote fruits and vegetables. So we have a library of books, we have coloring pages, we have stickers, we have a bulletin board with nutrition information that's rotating. We are working with the UNH Cooperative Extension, UNH Extension, with the Nutrition Pantry program. So we only offer certain foods. We don't accept donations for other foods that don't meet healthy guidelines. It is an open shopping model, like a supermarket style, to promote integrity in the food choice. We have recipe cards that are available. We have food samples sometimes. We have a TV that we're using to show food demonstrations on. Just a fantastic place to come, and I think it's demonstrated by the number of people who we see come frequently, over and over again.
Did you want to?
You can also find us on Facebook.
Do you want to talk about how many families you serve? We have so much in your little bag, that's why.
Yeah, I guess with all of the invoices, we've distributed over 12,000 pounds of food from the New Hampshire Food Bank. 949 people have been served by the Family Center Market just from October to December 2025. In our last report, 50% are adults over the age of 18, about 50% or 46% are children under the age of 18, 4% are adults over the age of 65. So just knowing how many CMS students that this market supports. This is doing it. We do this. So okay. Funding sources: the PTO allocated funds as part of the PTO budget. They're our fiscal agent. It began with $200 per year annually and is increased to $500 and $2,000 in the 25 to 26 budget. Directed donations to CMS CARES funds received from families and community members, including $1,000 from a community member during a November government shutdown to awareness of the loss of SNAP benefits. We've received grants in this past year, $10,000 through a private foundation and $3,000 from New Hampshire Hunger Solutions to purchase a commercial fridge, and then we had a $2,000 fruit and vegetable grant, promotion grant.
Oh, that's me. That's me. So looking ahead, we are really hoping to utilize the Family Center Market for additional family engagement activities. We have done that in the past when it was not set up as a family market or family center. So the space is a little smaller because once we did open the doors at the community, they call it the community center, I think. When it was the community center, we would just have the door open and we advertised that we were having a reading event and kids just piled in. And it was just amazing to see. They knew that they were going to get some pizza. It was just a wonderful opportunity to to meet them where they were at and be in their own little neighborhood. And I still get asked, and this was, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, I still get asked, are you coming to the center? Are you coming to the center again? And so we really want to utilize that space again for some more family engagement activities in the evening. And I'm hoping even in the summer, too, when there's a lot less structure. So in addition, Liz had mentioned that there's a Facebook page. We are looking to broaden the promotion of the Family Center Market through social media and just presentations like this and with other community collaboration meetings. We are doing a school-wide food drive because it is National Nutrition Month, so we will be doing that. And all of the food will be going back to the Family Center Market. And even though we don't have the space for a school, for like a care closet, we are going to use a modified space, which will For next year, we'll have, it'll just be a family center market light. It will have clothing, hygiene products, non-perishable food items that families and students can access. And, you know, our goal with this is really getting the word out about the CMS Cares model, with hopes that other schools and PTOs can replicate the model, because it really started as a small, like a group of, you know, like small but mighty individuals who really wanted to see this come to light, and we were able to, you know, make it grow with just making those connections, and if you build it, they will come. You know, really just making sure that, as I had mentioned before, removing any barriers early, so that students can remain safe, stable, and ready to learn. And looking at this, I always feel like we are in reactive mode, and I'm looking forward to being a little more proactive. And I'm hoping with all of the systems that we've built at CMS that we'll be able to be more proactive.
Board member, anyone, Ms. Hastings?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for doing all of that. You all have very busy lives, I'm quite sure, and it sounds like an immense task, but necessary. I would love to task you with going to each of the PTOs at all of the other schools in the district, and I'd love, in a perfect world, we'd see this change from maybe a CMS Cares to a CSD Cares, so that the entire school district would be able to help you, give you volunteers to help, as well as additional resources, but also be able to reach students and families throughout the district, because I'm sure, like you have at Christa McAuliffe, with families having difficulty getting to appointments, all of our schools.
Oh, and I
have
just,
very
even my you know, daily conversations with other social workers and home to school liaisons, it is, you know, they are feeling a little jealous, I think, that, you know, they said, well, how did you get them to how did you get a taxi? And, you know, just knowing, trying to leverage the resources you have already within your building. I think that, and Jennifer can speak more to, you know, the PTOs, but I feel like it probably seems like this is a really big project, and it's going to take a lot of time, and, you know, I don't have time to do this, and how are we going to put this all together? But if we already have the model, we want to share it, and we want to help you.
And again, I think a citywide PTO, if we had sort of an umbrella with a citywide PTO that then could transfer down to school building PTOs, would be, this is where you would thrive, and I think really be able to bring in a lot of extra help and support.
We were fortunate enough at the last PTO meeting that we had Fern present about the Project Aware grant, and we invited all the other PTOs to come to that, and we actually had representation from all the schools, and we actually shared with them as well that we were doing this presentation tonight, so they're aware, and we talked a little bit about the CMS Care, so we do hope to have additional conversations with them.
Thank you. Ms. Higgins?
I had one experience, and I'll keep it very vague, you know, but there was a social media post about a family in need posted by a friend. So I responded to it with some suggestions. I'm on the school board, you know, private message me, so somebody involved in your group messaged me, recognized that this was a CMS family, and by the end of the day, like the 2 or 3 things they were needed, the person that posted messaged me and said, how did you do that? I'm like, well, I didn't. You guys did. So 2 things. Yeah.
I remember that.
But it was just the end of the day. It was like in a day. So 2 things come to mind here. I know in the conversations around that, sometimes it's like with filling out free lunch forms. Families are afraid to ask or embarrassed to ask. And so if a program like this that's consistently out there, it's good there's no room in the building for a market, because now the market's where the kids are, and the market is in the neighborhoods and the communities. And so if we can facilitate this sort of involvement, you know, I can think of all sorts of places around all of our elementary schools that could have family center markets that aren't necessarily inside the school building. The people that don't want to ask for help won't have to, because it's there. And then communication grows and all that kind of stuff. So whatever little nudges are different in this program, it isn't a, you know, let's create this little thing and invite people to come to it. It's like, let's take what we have and get it out there. So it's, yeah, anyway.
Liz, I hope you do have a CSD lunch form in your bag there.
Oh, yeah, I do have a lunch.
Perfect.
I
So
know
I want to make sure you gave those
it's
out.
on-
We have it on
Encourage
display.
families, our display rack. Yeah.
It's a Mary Poppins bag.
Yeah,
Miss
with the
Campbell.
lamb.
For anybody watching at home, let's say they either work for a company who could provide volunteers or donations or themselves, who would they reach out to for that?
They can email, we're on Facebook, the Family Center Market. They can also email the PTO, cmsptonh@gmail.com, and we can forward that information on to whoever can help. But thank you.
And it's on the last page.
And it's on the last page as well. Oh,
very good.
Yes.
And also just to, Ms. Higgins, just to comment, to go off of your comment too, now that this is the idea of this, if anyone sees anything that's online circulating for requests, knowing that, you know, the school is available to support.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen that in action where, you know, there are several Concord community groups, and I kind of watch the conversation happen to see, and there's usually a CMS parent that's in there saying, you need to ask for, you know, so-and-so, and it's usually me because that's who they know, but they say every school has a Stacy or a social worker, and so make sure you're reaching out, because even if it's just one family speaking out to share, like, this was my experience, and there are people who can help you.
Well, and
Right in
lots
your
of-
school building.
Yes, and lots of people there's a lot of local online sites
Yes.
that people look at all the time.
Mhm.
So you don't even have to know anything about anything. If you see that,
Mhm.
call your nearest elementary school.
Mhm.
Call the superintendent's office. You know, somebody can guide you to where you need to go. So that's
Ms.
good.
Meeker? Yeah. And I think it's important that our community understands, I think especially with social media, I see it often, well, is the school doing anything to help? This is where the confidentiality piece comes in. This isn't a place for us to display our family's needs on social media. It's for us to identify need and address it in such a classy way. So I just really appreciate, like, I understand that communication about your services can be difficult because of this element of confidentiality, but it's so essential and it builds trust, and I really appreciate it. Because, you know, there's this saying, like, there's a will, there's a way, but when it comes to bureaucracy, sometimes it strips the will out of you, and so when you're finding solutions to provide immediate care, it's super impressive.
Because many of our families have just faced that bureaucracy daily, trying to access resources, and so just knowing that we're able to help immediately is pretty amazing.
And also to follow up on what Kara just said, these are not individuals' problems that we're helping to serve. These are community problems that everyone in the community should be thinking about how they can help in any way, not even just for necessarily our students, but families that live in Concord. So please, anyone listening, think about ways that you might be able to support organizations or our own organization.
Thank you very much for your work and for coming in tonight to share it with us.
I would be remiss if I didn't take just one moment to emphasize how critically important it is to the success of this that Stacy and Lindsay are, and I will say especially Stacy, I think it is so important that we have homeschool liaisons in our schools. This would not be possible without the individual relationships that Stacy builds with the families, making sure that people are comfortable coming to her and sharing ways in which they could use support. So really the PTO would not be able to do this on our own. It's our job to make sure that we are securing funds and then communicating with Stacy and collaborating with her to figure out how we can best support our students. So I just want to really emphasize how important it is to have Stacy and the other homeschool liaisons in our school district doing the work that they do. So thank you, Stacy.
See, we're missing our student reps tonight.
Student reps did, as I was looking for the presentation, which I didn't get in my email, but I did get an update from Aaron, Bernardo, and Clementine that they couldn't be here tonight because of a conflict in their schedules, but they did send me their update.
Okay.
So it was eventful this last week over the past 2 weeks at CHS. They last Friday they celebrated their winter carnival. They had food and stuff throughout the building that was created by student activity clubs. In addition to that, again, funded by student activity clubs, there were games and things displayed in the gym and tournaments held in the gym for all to participate in, all done and sponsored by student activities. We had Athletics, we have girls ice hockey secured a spot in the playoffs. They will be traveling to Hanover tomorrow night to play Hanover. Boys ice hockey, sealed up #1 spot. They will be hosting, I believe, is next Saturday here at Everett Ice Arena. And then in wrestling, we had 3 state champions crowned over the last 2 weeks. Maddie Beauregard, the first in the history of the state of New Hampshire 4-time state champion as a female wrestler. Max,
Second one from Concord High.
second one from Concord High. Yeah. Max Chung also won his weight class as a state champion. Dominic Chanella also. We had 6 top 5 finishes as well at the state meet. So those are some of our athletic celebrations. Also wanted to take an opportunity to share that tickets for our spring musical are on sale. We can send you the link or QR code, however you would like to purchase those.
What is this year's?
So this is, and there's a little bit more to share with this. This year is Dear Evan Hansen. It does have a mental health component to it, and we are working currently with NAMI as well as some other local services to ensure that we have information available for the attendees. We have support for our acting staff throughout the production from when it started and right through the end, because some of the topics could be sensitive to any member of the audience or sensitive to anybody participating in it. So this one required us to engage our mental health staff in the district as well as our mental health staff in the region to support both our students, faculty, as well as attendees in the event that somebody needs that support. And we'll also use it as an opportunity to promote the supports that are out in our community, available to families, that will be available to families in our foyer entering the theater so that they know of the services available to them. So.
Well, you see a lot of articles about books, but also student drama productions that they've been pushed away from hard topics. And it's great that you found a way to let the students do a performance that they wanted to do, a hard topic, and make it an even more of a learning experience.
Yeah, it truly is taking the performing arts and using it to really touch on sensitive topic that all our students and their families are dealing with in one capacity or another. So, and educating the community on the resources that are available. So I commend Mr. Close and his team for putting this together.
Ms. Higgins?
This is also his last hurrah because he's retiring, but he's made a mission of attacking. They did a play, Nora's Lost. I don't know if any of you, it was a few years ago. It was about a woman that goes missing from a nursing home. So she's on stage the whole time, lost in her dementia in the middle of the woods somewhere, and her life plays out behind her. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. It was one of those incredibly intense performances. So that's sort of his thing, which I really like because that's how we process all the stuff. So, yeah, we should all go see it.
So they also gave me a couple updates for Abbott Downing School. Their family dance is coming up March 13th. All are invited. There's some great food, and everybody's just invited to have some fun. Their drone club has started on, which started on February 11th. They have been learning how to fly and code their drones to fly. They have a big tournament coming up March 7th at Kearsarge Middle School, and they will be, they are the only elementary school entering the competition, so they're pretty excited about that and see how they stack up against others in the state. And that's all I have for the student rep report. All right. For a superintendent report, it's short. I think we've had a lot of time lately together, so and touched on many of the topics you would have had questions or wanted reports on. But I just wanted to give updates. All the major administrative positions that we have open and posted currently, we do have committees formed. They are actively going through some of the candidates that have applied. I just recently received from Lindsay Nye today her committee and some information on that. I have Kylene Chalaskis heading the CHS principal search. Graham Crowther and Chris are doing CHS Director of Special Ed. Am I correct on that one? Sure. Yeah. Okay. I'll be working with Anthony on the ADS assistant principal position as well. So where you have committees that are being formulated and coming together, we still have the assistant superintendent of student services posted. One thing that because of the number of applicants we have, and not many, we are considering, and I would like to repost it as a student director, SAU director of student services, see if we don't have the dual certification, if we get additional candidates apply. Unfortunately, it's very few number who have applied right now.
Because you
You need assistant, superintendent cert and the special ed administrator cert.
Okay. PDD?
I'm going to hand that off to Kim, but March 20th is our professional development day across the district, and Kim and the professional development committee have been working to coordinate that.
So this is our final professional development day for the school year. We have what we traditionally do, our PLCs, professional learning communities, that were happening whereby all third grade teachers throughout the district will be together in a learning community from 1 to 3, second grade, first grade, kindergarten, and then all content area personnel or educators. So for example, all science teachers, grades 6 through 12 will be together to be working on some common goals. Kylene Shalakis and I are working on a common theme where we're going to be looking at student performance and how to identify, help students identify areas for improvement and for needs that they empower them to identify their needs. So everyone will have the same agenda across those PLCs. And then during the morning, we have some work around instructional practices. We have some work around for our MLL students. We have some next generation science work for our PE staff. We have 4 hours of training on Project Adventure. And then we also have staff who have put together proposals. The proposals go to a small committee. The committee then decides if that fits the strategic plan and if it's relevant to the PD. And thus far, we probably have about 10 staff who will be doing offering their own presentations to staff. So a nice selection, and it'll also be Jill Prue's last day on the 20th. She's been willing to stay on as the administrative assistant for this position just to see this day through.
Before we move on, Superintendent, can you give an update? We have a vote tonight on Pittsfield SAU services, and I think if you could explain what that's about.
So we have been having conversations with Sandy McDonald, current SAU superintendent for Pittsfield, SAU 51, I believe it is. I may be messing that number up. I apologize. They've been in conversation with us here at SAU 8. Potentially her and the only other SAU member they have in the district are leaving at the end of this year, and they are looking to potentially contract with the Concord School District for the SAU services. Essentially doing the business administration with the contracts and pieces, as well as superintendent representation. They shared with us several different models of this in the state of New Hampshire, Governor Wentworth School District, Sunapee School District, and how they have this sort of a partnership and how it could look. So they, in Pittsfield, they will have to put this on the ballot and vote on that, so that's coming up. We're looking at it right now. We have a meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. with a series of questions that will be answered. We're looking at how they manage certain things, and what exactly is it for services they're looking for us. And what it comes down to is a bulk of what they do in the Pittsfield School District is they're negotiating contracts, because they don't have the staff to do that. They don't have a Rebecca Hart for transportation. They don't own their own buses. They negotiate a contract. They have IT, but they don't have the money to fund their own IT department and negotiate IT contracts. So they're looking for essentially your human resources around contracts, business administration around negotiating these contracts, and then superintendent services around assuring that the district's getting what they need as far as it comes to meeting the requirements of RSAs, providing adequate education for students, etc. They're looking and entertaining a couple districts right now. We've been the one who have probably been the most conversation with them about potentially taking that on. There is, in long story short, they would pay the Concord School District, not necessarily the people doing the jobs, but would pay for the time that is spent for their services. So it would be generating a revenue into the district if that were agreed upon.
What you're asking for tonight is basically
To
permission to submit a response to their RFP.
We have a series of questions which they'll answer, but before we can even go beyond, once we get the answers, before us to go beyond, we are seeking permission to continue down this road with them in response to their RFP.
You know, obviously, I think my big concern is, you know, their costs don't get shifted onto us, or
Yep.
you know, or that we, you know, don't have the capacity, you know, that
Mhm.
we have to hire other full-time people, you know, so that, you know.
These are the things we're discussing with them. A lot of it is contract services, maintenance of their contracts. It is, all of that belongs to the township of Pittsfield. And it's for lack of better words, it's on the backs of their taxpayers. It's continuation and negotiating those contracts to get the best deal for the city. So it really, when we're looking at it, it's something that's doable. Will it require additional work of some of our personnel here? Yes. They have, where they're not the same structure as us with the board, they're a town meeting, SB 50, is it SB 52? SB2 town. There actually is a voting process and things of that nature. So where the services really will be time consuming will be around those things, but they also function on a different timeline than this district does. And they shared models with us where, you know, the other district that this is used in, where it's different personnel for different purposes. If it's a municipal budget committee, it might be the business administrator, but they're not requiring all staff to be there from our district. So there's still a lot to hash out. We do have the RFP with, putting an RFP with them, discussing it more. And I would say that, primarily it's been Jack and myself. We're not interested in getting into a situation that we can't handle the capacity with our staff that we already have, and we're not interested in getting into a situation that's going to put us in any sort of financial bind because we took on this role. So,
do you have an approximate number of how many students are in the Pittsfield district?
It was I wish I had the exact numbers in front of me, Alex, but it was over 200 and some odd students, and they're staying in the Pittsfield schools. Right. We would just be providing SAU services.
Right.
Although Pittsfield is also having a discussion about whether they close their middle and high school.
Yep.
And send and enter like an arrangement that like we have with Deerfield.
So they're considering a lot of options because there's a lot of uncertainty in the future.
Ms. Hastings?
I appreciate the interest in revenue building for our school district and our taxpayers. I worry, caution against the timing, just because it's a difficult year for all of us, but have every faith that you would not bring us a recommendation that you did not feel was sustainable. So just had to say that, and I wish our city council would look at maybe some revenue opportunities as well. I'll just put that out there.
Ms. Campbell.
I'm probably being a little motherly myself, but
That's my job.
it is. It's okay. I'll be assistant mother for tonight. But my other concern is you guys just taking on too much for yourselves. So I worry about that. And I don't want you going anywhere. No one. But if you guys ever leave, we need to replace you. Will be even harder to replace you because we've taken on this additional work. So hiring in the future, just make sure we're in a place for that.
Absolutely.
I just want the revenue. I'll be honest.
Thank you for your honesty.
I
Side
mean,
fries.
I mean, I think it probably makes sense for us in a couple of ways, including, but it is a difficult year, but also difficult years are years where you're sort of forced to make big changes and that can save things in the long run.
It's something for us to consider, and if in the end, again, like Jack and I, we're not looking to add personnel to our existing personnel. So if we believe it's going to do that, that's not advantageous to us. We're not looking to put us in a situation where there could be a hardship with that SAU 8 indoors because of this contract. We're not looking for that either.
I mean, I will say that you shouldn't go into it no personnel. Like if we needed to add a business administrative assistant or, someone lower level and the revenue outpaced that, then I'd be okay with that too.
Understood.
If there's a balance, so. But, okay, so we will vote on that with votes, but does anyone else have any questions? Facilities update, middle school update, Mr. Cashman.
All right, I'm going to try to merge them right together. Facilities last week on vacation week, we had fire alarm annual testing. It's a good test to do when kids are not in school because they activate the alarms and it gets kind of loud. We also separately had some overhead speaker work done at both the high school and Runlet Middle School. And then I was like to take the opportunity, this is our custodians that work hard every day. They really got a chance to get in and do some needed deep cleaning, especially this time of year with the salt and conditions outside. So little shout out for them. And then I would just point you for the middle school update, I'd point you to page 46 and just hit some milestone highlights that are coming up. Tomorrow, we have what's called a page turn. It's relatively informal, but it's with Harvey, RFS Engineering, Novus, and the architects. And we go through significant pages of the actual plans for the middle school and just try to point out long lead time items, any issues, just in all reality, just to make sure everybody, all the contractors coming in are on the same page. So that's going to happen tomorrow. We also tomorrow have our, a couple things. We are also meeting with the local building inspector and also the code enforcement officer from the city. We're also going to be reviewing the plans with them. Also tomorrow night, we have our sustainability committee meeting. We're going to be talking about LEED with them, followed by Thursday night, we have a building committee meeting here. And let's see.
That's where we're talking about exterior, right?
Yes, we are. Yes, we're going to be having some elevations to look at and some product, I believe. They talked about bringing up on the last visit through. On March 20th is the last day to submit names for the school. So that's out there. And then a lot of interest around the abutters meeting that we have on March 12th. That's going to be at Runlet Middle School, 6 p.m. And we're going to be kind of an open forum question and answer, but an overview of the project and talking about the construction timeline and the traffic, both after, we open with the buses, but also construction traffic that we'd be looking at during the project and coming up real quick. And then lastly, we're still on track for the 60% construction documents for April 1st, and that follows with the early bid packages that will go out. So things are tracking right on track so far.
Ms. Meeker. I just want to quickly comment on the abutters meeting on the 12th. I know that we had called it an abutters meeting, and I believe we sent out letters to the abutters, but it is also a public meeting, and so a notice went out to the broader community. My concern is that the conversation that the abutters are owed might be diluted by having a full community meeting. Is there any way or any strategy for prioritizing their needs, prioritizing their comments sort of early in the meeting to really get at sort of the nature of that before I guess I'm just putting it out there.
I mean, I think we can, what's that? We could talk to, we can, when we open up the meeting, we can address that. I think getting that out front and maybe giving priority to the abutters or the neighbors to be able to speak and air their concerns. That would be a good way to start it. But we still have a little bit of time if we want to alter that a little to make it more accustomed to the community. We could, to the neighborhood, we could do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, just from, like, if I were an abutter, I would want priority in an abutters meeting to have an in-depth conversation with the district that isn't just a testimony and then that's that, and then the next person comes who maybe lives a couple miles down the street. And, so how are we going to identify the abutters? How are we going to prioritize their questions? Because they will be immediately impacted by construction, by design plans. And I understand that the full community deserves to have a say, and I want the full community to have curiosity around the project, which is awesome. But from my perspective, this was sort of like a specific type of meeting, right? So we have, a policy meeting, an instructional meeting, and so we prioritize subject matter, and so people, I sort of see it in the same way. So I guess I'm curious how we're gonna focus on those folks.
In previous districts where I worked in, what I've witnessed is that they've had people sign in and put your address when you sign in, and if it was specific to a certain street to ensure that we heard that street speak. When I was in Nashville working at Elm Street Middle School, the streets abutted the school, and we had some major disruption as we had portables delivered and some construction on the school. We prioritized based on the address, gave them the opportunity to speak. We had agenda items and went through the agenda items, prioritized the tree streets speaking because they were going to be impacted by this, by the noise, by the trucks coming in and out. And then we open it up to general comments in the end for the neighborhood as a whole to speak to, how concerns or impacts that they were fearful of happening. So I think maybe a structure of that nature. We do have the addresses of who we sent our letters out, and we could work to prioritize that as they sign in, having somebody go through to make sure we prioritize the butters.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay.
And then have them then do the general public sheet as well,
Yeah.
have them do that based on the information that was.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Can I-
Those take.
We also just wanted to, it is a neighborhood, like a butter is kind of a pretty defined term, and this is gonna have a large impact on not just the abutters. So we're trying to find that, I totally hear what you're saying, but we also wanted to make sure that maybe the next street over who wouldn't be an abutter felt like they were welcome and could have their voices participate
Well, and when you
too.
look at traffic flow, Noyes Street goes down, and you have all the Princeton, all the college streets that are one way this way and this way, so traffic will be quite different for them.
That's
So-
exactly, and it's gonna flex over the project too. So that's why we kind of made that umbrella, why we shared the broader notice, but.
A butter is sort of a legally defined term that this
Right.
is who the city says you have to send
Yeah.
notices
Exactly.
to.
But I live here. My words are not as important as someone that lives on Harvard Street.
Right, but for the meeting, I think maybe we draw a
Yeah.
circle that might go a little bit beyond
Noyes Street.
what the abutters, what we would be required to notify and say, like, let's give priority to the people in this circle. So, that's a great idea.
Get a green pen.
That's
Great. Communication and policy. Right, no finance, we have so much finance this month.
We have plenty of finance to go around. The Communication and Policy Committee is bringing a few policies to you tonight on second reading. To begin, I'll just move that we approve policy 542.1.
Well, we have the votes scheduled after, so is there any update?
Well, I make the motion so we can discuss.
Sure.
Is that?
But we don't usually do it that way.
No,
just
it's
'cause
fine. We can have an open discussion.
Yeah.
So, policy 542.1, unauthorized communication devices on second reading. We did not receive any feedback between first reading and second reading, other than we had a comment from Ms. Minot, I believe, with a question on some language. It's up to her if she wants to bring it forward tonight.
Yeah, I'm happy to mention it. It seems unenforceable to me that we're requiring the device to be off. Unless we're searching every backpack and every locker, we're not going to confirm that the device is off. I understand that the committee had a discussion about it, and I respect that process. To me, it is difficult to understand that we're going to have a policy that essentially we cannot enforce. It would make more sense that the device has to be on silent, and then if it makes a noise, obviously you violated the policy. My understanding is that we're not going to be actively checking devices or looking, and so it was a little hard for me to understand why the policy requires that the device be off if that's something we are not going to and cannot verify. To me, it makes more sense that
We just don't have the staffing to do that with every student.
When
in
I don't
every
think we
school.
should.
No,
Right.
I agree.
Looking at every device.
If it's out of sight and it's not
And it's
disruptive,
silent.
then.
So, and let me, for anybody curious, I'm sure everyone did their homework and read all the policies, but on page 57, under Rome 2 restrictions, number 3, what Madeline is discussing is, while it is best practice that personal communication devices are not brought to school, if these devices are brought to school, they shall be stored with the power turned off in a student's assigned locker, backpack, or other bag.
Just
So-
take power thing, just.
So when we move this, anyone is free to bring an amendment to the language. I do want to provide some context, which is that we did have an extensive conversation around, backpack or other bag, maybe it's in someone's pocket, on silent or off. How's anyone to know? And so the enforceability element of this is, sort of, it's a little bit ambiguous. But staff did say that this particular language empowers them to, let's say somebody has it on and not silent, they then can say, hey, that needs to be off. So it sort of creates that empowerment around messaging. So that's where that.
And that would have been as a classroom teacher standing in front of a classroom full of students, if the district policy is that your phone is off, that's the policy. So the way that they get caught is it makes a noise, or they're looking at it, or makes it whatever. But if they believe they have to turn it off, they will. If they're not told to turn it off, they won't. And I think, as the other side of yes, no, we don't have people to check everyone's bags. I don't think that was the point. The point was the fallback. Well, the policy says you have to have it off. Please turn it off. So I guess it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Really, if it's in a locker or a bag, that should be sufficient.
Did the state law have any?
They didn't even say we had to enforce
It
them.
says you can't use them.
Right.
But the
I was
state law
just
is
double
somewhat
checking.
broad.
Yeah.
So
That was
I'm
another big
fine, and I respect that there was a process and there was extensive discussion, and Kara pointed me to the meeting, and I watched the meeting of the committee, and I understand that was the preference of everyone involved. I'm just sort of pointing out that in reality, as long as you're not looking at it and it's not making any noises and it's put away, that probably satisfied the requirement.
And I'm actually having a little bit of deja vu here. Being in the Derry district, my 8th graders actually just got a whole little rundown on this law and their policy for it, and it was pretty much the same thing. It needs to be off and in your bag, not just on silent, not just on vibrate, and just the big reason for that is because so many kids now have Apple Watches that are connected to the phones, and that is also another way that the teachers will notice kids looking at their watches and getting texts and such, which that's another way that may be just another potential. Not saying we should enforce it per se, but that's another way to check up on that. And that's what we'll be doing over there. All us teachers were told today that if we see kids checking Apple Watches, that's where it might be time to make office referrals. So
Didn't even think of that. Maybe with the phones off.
if it's off, then they're just using the watch to tell time.
So it's like, turn off your phone, sweetie.
What if the watch has its own plan?
Well, yeah, like my kids have Gizmo watches.
Well, not just those, but your Apple Watch could have its own
Well,
plan.
isn't it a device policy, watches?
That's
phones?
covered as
Yes.
part of the,
Yeah.
it is covered as part of the device.
no further discussion on that. That'll come up for a vote in a little bit. Page 59, we are bringing to you on second reading student records and access. We did not receive any comments or questions about this particular policy between first and second reading, but I'm happy to take any questions or discussion now. To remind everyone, this was amended language to ensure that the sort of student services team, the wraparound services team in the district that's helping a particular student has access to their educational materials. In order to make those decisions, sort of discerning between like what information a teacher can just pull for, I'm interested in this information, that's a no, but I need this educational material to help guide our process, that's a yes. Is a very simplistic way of saying that, but my technical experts are not here. And then finally on page 66, we have policy 741, facility use fees. I will be requesting that we table this particular policy. Bond counsel had made recommended language, which is why we are amending this policy. We had asked them for some clarifying questions around the language that they offered us. We haven't heard back from them yet. I don't think it gets in the way of our bond schedule in the next week, so I just would prefer if we wait until we get their answer.
Any questions, comments? Great. Negotiations, do you have any updates, Ms. Guerin? Or Ms. Superintendent? Either?
Yeah, I mean, and Michelle, grab a mic so you can weigh in as well. But last couple of meetings, we had numerous TAs on both sides, so we were making progress.
TA stands for
Tentative agreements. And then what we do have coming up, after speaking with some of the leadership of the CEA today, we do have some of the bigger proposals, counters coming back to us for consideration around some language disputes that we're having, as well as salary scale, as well as the benefits. So we'll have some of the bigger ticket items coming back to us shortly for consideration. So counter offers. In addition to that, CIT, we've heard they put in an offer, we put in a counter offer, and we're waiting to hear back on the counter offer.
Correct. And CIT is the
Certified instructional tutors. Yep.
I'm going to just hold personnel. I'm going to open it for public comment, and then we'll do all the votes after. Opening for public comment. If anyone would like to testify, you can come up and sign in. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Personnel, Ms. Guerin.
Okay, on page 71, we have our returning spring coaches. These are coaches that have already been doing this position in previous years, and they'll just be returning.
Would someone like to move approval of the 3 spring coaches?
So moved.
Ms. Higgins moves Ashley Conway to be girls JV softball coach, David Chase to be boys B lacrosse coach, and Patrick McDonough to be boys A lacrosse coach. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Campbell. Discussion.
Are we just approving those
Right,
or
I
the
thought we
whole
were
team?
No, just
The list on page 71 is the returning coaches. The
Oh.
list on 72 are the new coaches.
Oh, okay. Well, we have. Let's do.
Yeah, so let me read you.
Sorry. Yeah.
I move that we accept the 3 new coaches along with the returning coaches for the spring sports season.
Seconds by Mr. Boyd.
Okay.
All right.
There we go. Thank you.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I just saw 73.
Can I ask a quick clarifying question about administrator? So we're in a horrifying budget reality. We have not spent a lot of time at all talking about cuts that will likely have to come, staff cuts at every level, from custodians all the way through to paraprofessionals, secretaries, teachers, administrators. If we approve these administrator positions, nothing to do with the people who are the administrators, are we locked into they have a job in this next budget, or do we still have flexibility should we need to make cuts?
Quick answer is no, then you're not locked in. We can still do a reduction in force based on the needs after the fact of this approval.
Okay, because I don't want to lock us into something that maybe is not going to be a good thing. down the
Understand.
road. Okay. As long as we have that flexibility, I'm good. Thank you. Now all the administrators don't like-
Ms. Guerin? So I'm going to defer to Tim on the administrators.
All right. First, I'd just like to take a second to, on page 73, recognize bringing forth Lindsay Nye as the Krista McAuliffe School Principal. In addition, you got the handout with that.
Let's
Go-
do
go
that.
ahead.
Let's do
Yep,
Lindsay
go.
as a vote. So
Yep.
would someone like to move Lindsay Nye as principal of the Krista McAuliffe?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Boucher. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second by Ms. Sadowski. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes.
You have an additional handout of the additional CAA, the Certified Administrators or Concord Administrators Association.
And these are all returning.
These are all returning.
Would someone like to move approval of returning administrators?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Higgins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Hastings. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And then page 74, Ms.
Page, yeah, page 74, you have the SAU administration or director positions as well.
And this is the same,
This is the same.
the
Yep.
same flexibility that we would have.
This is the same flexibility we would have.
All right, thank you.
And this is the returning personnel.
Returning personnel.
Would anyone like to move central office administrator nominations?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Meeker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Higgins. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Policy 542.1, unauthorized communications devices. Would anyone like to move approval?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Campbell. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Higgins. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Policy 580, student records and access. Anyone like to move approval?
I move that we approve policy 580.
Moved by Ms. Higgins. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. DuBois. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Policy 741.
We're tabling that one, right?
We gotta move to table.
Oh, that's right. I move we table policy 741.
And I will second.
Moved by Ms. Higgins, second by Mr. Dwight. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Would someone like to move approval of continuing discussions with Pittsfield around SAU services?
So moved. Oh, yeah.
Moved by Ms. Campbell. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Higgins. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. We did. We did it before the administrators. All right. Yep.
I was just confused.
Monthly enrollment reports on page 75 and 76.
So just some key highlights. At the elementary level, we reduced 9 students over time span of from last month to today. At the middle school level, we have reduced by 4 students. At Concord High School, have gone down by 3 students. And all of this is for various reasons. Some of it has been families electing to homeschool. Some of it has been students moving away to other districts. Some of it has been a situation of, although our McKinney-Vento numbers have increased this month, some of our families have found permanent housing. So for various reasons, these numbers are flexing. And preschool are down by 2 and CRTC down by 5.
Questions? Meeting schedule, but once you get through March, look at April, it looks so nice.
So light.
So tomorrow, we have instructional at 5, and the Sustainability Committee meeting at 5:30. Wednesday,
the-
negotiations at
Oh,
5.
I think Terry has something to say.
I'm sorry, sustainability's on the website is 6, and the invite was for 6.
Then it's at
Because-
6 o'clock.
Yeah, because it was on the website for 6, so yeah,
Okay.
that's what it was sent out as.
Thank you for the clarification. Negotiations on Wednesday at 5, followed by a budget work session at 5:30. We need to vote to post a budget for the public hearings on Wednesday night. Building committee on Thursday at 5:30. Monday, the 9th, budget work session at 5:30. The 11th, budget work session at 5:30. The 12th, a butters meeting at RMS at 6 p.m. The 16th, public budget hearing and open enrollment hearing at 6 p.m. at Millbrook. 18th, and we need to post that for the open enrollment. Public budget hearing here at 6 p.m. on the 18th. City and Community Relations at 5:30. Executive Committee on Monday, the 23rd at 5, followed by budget work session at 5:30, and the 25th, budget work session and finalize the budget. It says preliminary budget because we can change our budget in October, but it requires 7 votes.
And what does open session mean on the 23rd?
It means
Whatever we need to talk
discussion.
No, that it's not dedicated to anything in specific.
Not it is specific, yeah. April, we have capital facilities on the 1st at 5:30, building committee at 5:30 on the 2nd. Our monthly meeting is on the 6th. Communications and policy on the 8th, executive committee on the 13th at 5, and followed by instructional. City and community at the 15th at 5:30, and the 20th, negotiations at 5, and finance at 5:30, which seems relatively sane after March. And then the week after is spring break. Superintendent, you had said we needed a
We do.
non-public.
Before we go non-public, I do want to take an opportunity to recognize a member here in our VI leadership team who has decided at the end of this year she's going to retire after 18 years of service in the Concord School District as a teacher, principal, and assistant superintendent in curriculum instruction and assessment here at Concord School District, Kim Yarlett. So, Kim, thank you for your years of service. With that being said, we do have a reason for non-public under personnel.
So I will move that we go into public session under 91A3 to discuss personnel matters, and you said there was a student, so that is under.
So personnel.
Yes. Matters which discussed in public would likely adversely affect the reputation of any person.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Boucher. This is a roll call vote.
Ms. Campbell? Mr. Dubois?
Yes.
Ms. Hastings?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yep.
Ms. Minot?
Yes.
Ms. Sadowski?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. 9.
Let's take 2 minutes and let people go and put away our mics and.